Are you struggling to get smooth, realistic shading with colored pens? I get it. Colored pens do not erase. They are unforgiving, and if you are not careful enough, shading becomes really patchy instead of smooth. But don't worry. In this video, I'll be showing you 2 simple tricks that will completely transform your shading in 2025 and beyond. These are layering and improvising mistakes. And trust me, they all make the difference. So with that said, let's jump right in.
Okay, let's talk about layering. What even is it? Let's say I'm building a house, right? Not buying. I beg you, not buying. Building. Would I start from the roof? No. I'll start from the ground. And when I start from the ground, right? Do I magically pop out a whole house? Of course not. I build it step by step. Foundation, structure, walls, roof, you get the idea. Now, why am I talking about houses? Right? We are not buying houses. We are not building houses. Why am I talking about houses? We are not building one on paper. But the same mindset applies to realistic shading. Shading doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a gradual process, just like that house. You start with the base, you build it up slowly, layer by layer, and that is where layering comes into play. So remember, layering is a process. It's not one big move. It's a series of intentional steps. And step 1 is all about how you begin. Now, let's talk about how to actually start your shading. You want to avoid pressing too hard right away, like this one on the left. Like, see how the lines are darker and uneven? That's what we don't want. Instead, go in light and slow, like what you see on the right. These light hatching strokes gives you full control and allow you to build the shading gradually. So now that you have seen how pressure affects your shading, let me show you how I apply it in my actual drawing. See how light these strokes are? I'm barely pressing down, just setting the base. That's the key to building clean, smooth shading. Doing this gives me control and leaves room to build up tone gradually, layer by layer. On the other hand, this is exactly how things start to look patchy instead of smooth. And the more you try to fix it, the messier it gets. Once you have a base layer, the foundation, go back over it with a slightly darker pressure or a different color to deepen the tone. Instead of one thick, heavy line drawn across the paper, build up depth gradually. If you want a smooth gradient, increase your stroke density near the shadow areas, but keep the lighter sections untouched. So now that you have seen how layering works conceptually, let me show you what that looks like in action. Watch how I slowly build up depth with light repeated strokes instead of trying to go dark all at once. As you see, with the same presentation of light strokes, which I demonstrated in the previous step, I am just building layers, thin layers over it, not drawing a thick line across the shading, but gradually building the layers until it becomes dark at its appropriate position. Okay, so now that you have learned the two steps, learning when not to use pressure, as well as building up your tones gradually, you have got a solid base. But to really make your shading pop up, right, to give it richness and dimension, you've got to bring in color layering. That's where overlapping colors come into play. So let's talk about this apple. Looks good, right? That's because it's not just red. There's orange, yellow, even hints of blue layered in. Now, if you are just drawing a cartoon, sure, go with a flat red like this on the left. But if you want that apple to pop off the page and look real, you've got to overlap those colors like this one on the right. Remember, there are no shortcuts. Realism takes layers. Now here's how that looks in real life. Watch how I start with light base tones, soft yellows and blues, and gradually layer reds, browns, and even a hint of green. The key is not to rush. Each layer adds a new dimension, a subtle shift in warmth and depth. It's the overlapping of all these colors that gives the apple its richness and realism, not just one color doing all the work. So remember, layering is everything when it comes to realistic shading. Also, go light with your pressure. Your paper is not fighting you, so don't fight your paper. And most importantly, stop rushing. Great shading takes patience. Trust the process and your results will show it. Okay, before we move on to trick number 2, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you will not miss out on more realistic art tips like this. I post videos on color pen techniques, shading tips, and realistic art tutorials. So if you are interested and serious about leveling up your art, you will definitely want to stick around. With that said, let's jump right into trick number 2. We've all been here, right? You mess up a stroke and suddenly feel like your drawing is ruined. But here's the thing, I'll make it really short. Mistakes don't mean you start over. With pens, it is about adapting. I just blend it in, change the shape, or layer something new over it. Boom, fixed. So remember, mistakes don't mean failure. They are just part of the process. Instead of tearing your paper up in frustration, pause and ask, how can I work with this? A little creative thinking can turn a slip up into a signature moment in your art. The more you learn to adapt, the less power mistakes will have over your confidence. And that's what makes you grow as an artist.
And there you have it. Layering and improvising mistakes. 2 simple but important tricks that will take your colored pen shading to the next level. If you found this helpful, please make sure to subscribe and comment down below which trick you are going to try first. Also, let me know, have you ever saved your drawing, right, by improvising a mistake? And if you want more tips on how to master color pens, check out my video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.